Second part of that is you got to be positive. To me, body language is negative body language kind of brings everybody down. Positive body language, having energy, enthusiasm, being positive in your work, helps you create more value for yourself, helps you improve, but it also affects the people around you in a very positive way. So we don't like negative people. We don't like people who judge what we do, like why we practice in the day, why we doing fourth quarter program. I don't want to hear that. That's a principle and value of the organization that you choose to buy into. And when you buy into it, you need to go about it in a positive way, which is going to help you get better, and it's going to help us get better. And the third thing is everybody's got to be responsible for their own self-determination. That's all about accountability. If you're going to be a professional someday, you got to be responsible. Somebody's going to define an expectation. Somebody's going to define a standard, and you got to be accountable to it. And if you're not, they're going to fire you and get somebody else. So it's no different on our team. So everybody needs to learn how to do that. And we define that. We define the expectation for our players personally, academically, and athletically. And we define the expectation of what we expect them to do and the standard we expect them to do it to. And that helps them be successful.
Welcome, everybody. Let's get after it tonight. I was thinking about how timely this topic is for everybody on the call. We've got some young guys that are just starting their seasons, some high school guys that they're in it and they've played a few games. And then the college guys, you're probably getting up close to game 20. And this skill, in terms of where we are in class, is the third of the three mental skills: communication or talk. Remember, it's lock, block, and talk. Concentration 2 weeks ago. And then we went to a week ago, we talked about block, staying in the moment, being able to go task by task. Now, this is sort of a culmination of all those, but the ability to communicate while you're in season, while you're in college, and while you're in high school is something that we're going to paint in a very special and kind of simple way. Show you the two toughest conversations that you're going to have as a college baseball player. Relate that to some of those tough conversations that you might have later in a professional life, but also bring that back to the day in the life of what you're doing right now, and talk about that professional communication you can have with a professor, a teacher right now, and how this all ties together. Now, we know that people generally do not like to speak in public. They definitely don't like the tough conversations like, hey, coach, how do I get in the lineup? And from experience, I can tell you that when guys would come to me with that question, if it was done at the right time, at the right place, and at the right pace, about 98% of the time, the conversation ended with the player being so relieved. Why? Because leading up to that conversation about playing time or role or how I want to specialize my skills and the way I see things going as a player, leading up to that conversation, what's killing players is too many opinions. I don't like this. I think this happened. I remember guys telling me, hey, I thought you weren't playing me because I missed study hall 4 weeks ago. Or I thought I wasn't playing because I struck out in the 7th inning in that pinch hit at bat. So tonight is all about a professional framework around your communication, how to elevate in those true conversations where you go in and you really want to find out from that coach or that professor, hey, how can I get a better grade in this class? How can I get more playing time? But back up, even if you're a leader right now in the beginning of your season, you're the Derek Jeter of your program, it's all about communication. It's all about elevating talk. And I call it positive, productive talk. Positive and productive. Doesn't mean positive is always flowers, wine, and roses. It means positive always has a good effect on the person that I'm communicating with. Could be tough love, could be a hard truth, but it really genuinely comes from the heart of, hey, I'm trying to make this guy better. And then the productive part, that's when we enter into a true dialogue back and forth so that we can get to some sort of higher truth and we can leave that conversation and feel better and more clear about a direction that we're going in. Before I show you the first video, all of this communication has to start with this one thing in your mind as it relates to coaches. Coaches are there to help you. Bosses are there to help you. Now, we may have opinions and say, well, I don't think so because of these 30 things. My boss isn't here to help me because of these 20 things. They are here to help. It's why they spend the time, energy, and effort that they do. So you have to go in with that belief that this person is here to help me, and maybe in a way that's different than a way that I don't always understand. But this person is here to help me, and that's how I'm going to go in to this tough conversation. So 2 tough conversations tonight. 1 in competition, and 2 that playing time talk that you're going to go have. And from there, I think we'll get into some of the leadership stuff when we bring on Coach French. And I'm so excited to have him that in order to show this first video, his union head told me I had to bring him on. Guy's corporate, man. He brought the union. So we're going to show this video, and then him and I are just going to, for the rest of the class, engage you, get you involved, but also talk about some of these ideas that make you a sharper communicator. So I want to bring on Coach French, and you guys know him. I introed him in prep notes, and he's in every class, on every class, running the behind the scenes. But this is going to be fun tonight because you're going to learn from a big leaguer of tech and communication. He's too humble to say it himself, but he started just like all of us. Junior college guy, Division I bounce back junior college guy. He fights his way up through the tech industry. All he does is just say, I'm going to do my job as well as I can, be as thorough as I can. He finds himself after years in one of the fastest growing companies in world history, really, but American history for sure. And he finds himself directing the strategy for this whole group. So he sits in a unique seat as we watch these videos and we talk about how I can communicate better. He's been a high-level tech executive in a Fortune 500 company. He's also a college baseball player. He's also a grinder like you guys, but he's also a dad and he's a current coach. So as we talk tonight, as we get you involved, as you gather some communication skills to take into your day-to-day, really lean in, listen closely to what Coach French has to say because he's seen every angle of this. Coach French, are you out there?
I am. What's up, Coach Moore? It's fun to be on this side of the aisle.
He said we finally let him talk in these classes. I mean, he's running the show.
We'll see if we can say some meaningful stuff here. But again, apologize for the video earlier. This one does not have sound on purpose, right, Coach?
We're going to talk over this one and let it happen. I'll intro this. This happened this weekend. It is a competitive situation. And as you watch, take it in. Do not formulate 80 opinions on this like Twitter did after the fact. Let's watch as competitors, not as politicians or Twitter experts. This guy's rolling in this game against Vandy. 3-3 in the 7th. Gives up a couple hits on a couple different pitches. And then the big fly. We will all be in this situation. Pitcher, hitter, infielder, we'll all be in this situation. It's rolling, and then the wheels come off a bit. The pitcher on the way back to the dugout. It's got some harsh words. Coaches break it up. And now this is going to show again. And I want you, as perspective, watch as he walks back into the dugout, how few players even bat an eye. There's a guy in the back drinking probably an energy drink. Other guys are just kind of going about their business. They glance over. Then it's diffused and everybody moves on. Now, how did Twitter handle this? there was 89,257 opinions on who was right, who was wrong, who should call pitches, what pitches he should be throwing. This is for fans. I'm addressing you, Coach French is addressing you as a competitor. Now, as you watch this, what do you think? I mean, what's the standard you go by? My initial reaction is A, this is going to happen. B, is there a better way for it to be handled by the competitor? I don't want to get into coaching philosophy. That's not for this class. I want you to go ahead and scribble in your notes. And I think there's some simple things, but we're going to put a framework around it. How could this pitcher very specifically have handled this thing different and better? Take about 10 seconds, scribble down some notes on how that might be the case, and then we'll get Coach French's thoughts. Coach French is competitive. You watch this, what do you think?
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's a highly competitive environment. Playing one of the best teams in the country, pitching his tail off and gets hit. But the reality is you got to take ownership for whatever it is you're doing on the mound. And in any situation, and it's instead of coming off firing at the coach, maybe there's something that's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, right? There's always that, but just taking the chance to just have a quick conversation about where all this thing came from and what happened, and understand the coach's perspective, have the coach be able to understand the player's perspective. I mean, maybe there's something the coach could have done to slow the whole thing down to begin with, right? And just have a conversation, but it comes down to those just simple communication skills. When you got two people going head to head at stuff, there is no conversation that's happening there at that point, and there's no communication that's occurring.
And there's going to be communication one way or another. And this I think is a perfect chance in the heat of the moment for players to look and say, hey, can I meet the standard? If the standard is I can say anything, that's the freedom. I can say anything in the right time, right place, and at the right pace. You can say just about anything. Coach, I thought calling 2 breaking balls in a row was a bad idea. I've been told that. And at the right time and place, right pace, anything. I'll take that feedback. But what happens is emotion gets high, and then you see what happens there. So what could that pitcher have done different, Coach French, in your opinion, just as far as time, place, and pace?
Well, the time, place, and pace, I love that philosophy. But if you really take a step back, it's, a coach calling pitches that you may not agree with is very similar to what you see with a middle infielder or an infielder that boots a ball. Like, you got to get on the mound and do your job and handle and control what you can't control. But a lot of that really begins with trust, right? Like, you have to trust the infielders and one of our coaches talks about this all the time. Top draft pick, Rusty McDonald, he'll talk about the fact that these infielders feel far worse about this than you ever will if you made an error. A coach does, and I've been on this side where I've called changeups, off speed, whatever, and they get hit out of the park. But I saw something, and we've been going. We've got reports on this particular hitter. Like, we know something is going to work, and we've got a pretty good hunch that it's going to work, and sometimes it doesn't. So at the end of the day, that coach didn't call a pitch to get those balls hit out of the park or to get them hit hard. They were trying to do their best stuff, but the player at the same time has to take ownership for the stuff that they can control, and not get so emotional about the stuff that they can't control.
Yeah. And, most of the guys on this call are here either because you and Coach Gregory made them, or they want to learn. And one of the things you can feel when you're in that competitive situation, you get to a certain point, it's almost like alarm bells go off. Hey, I'm about to lose my self-control. And as soon as that happens, we lean on right time, right place, and right pace. So that I've seen both. That pitcher who goes down the dugout, sits for a second, gets some water, and then comes over to the coach. That's a far better situation, far better communication, far better conversation develops. And maybe it's after the game. You push it until after the game, because that's a better time, place, and you'll be ready to deliver at a better pace, but that shouldn't have happened coming off the mound. Cannot happen, will not happen coming off the mound, and it won't happen if we know that alarm bell is going. I'm going to lose self-control, and we check down to drink of water, slow this thing down, and I'll have this conversation in 4 minutes or 4 hours when this game is over.
Is that, I mean, you called pitches back in the day or last year and your last 20 plus years of your career. Like what have you had any similar situations, and how would you have handled it differently?
Oh, I've had some beauties. I had a guy come off the mound and he didn't like the pitch calling, and it was his draft year. And this is an example of just things that don't matter, not staying in the present. And he is yelling in the dugout, "This is my year. This is my year. I can't throw that pitch there." And I let all our pitchers shake. So in the end, they knew they could if they wanted to. But I mean, and what it tells me is just the pressure, the amount of things on guys' minds that shouldn't be there has to be thinned away. We got to get to execution. And how can we execute best? Well, we got to communicate within the game and not let the Travis Kelce and Andy Reid thing happen. We just communicate and then we move on. But it's competitive. So a guy that blew up in that dugout, you love him anyway, and then you teach off that. You go find another way to clear those things off his mind.
Well, and, Coach, I think the reality is that in any circumstance, especially in a game situation, the pressure is high. And I think just being able to execute in high pressure situations and just realizing that when there's a lot of pressure, that means it's really meaningful to you, right? It's important. And how do I slow things down a little bit so that I can operate in that moment and not let things go awry? Because I mean, the reason why I went awry is because he got hit hard and he was frustrated. If he would have thrown, 8 good pitches in a row, then maybe this never would have happened. But it's that pressure situation, and that pressure situation exists in everything.
Yeah.
That pressure situation exists when my son comes home at night and we talk about things that are happening at school. Like, I have to be able to sit and listen calm and talk him through things. It happens at work every single day where people are asking for more and more than when you can possibly give. And it's just, the reality is when you take a step back, that pressure is actually pretty awesome. That means it's important. And that means that I have a chance to do something right in that time. So that's another thing I look at when you look at the overall concept of being competitive.
Yeah. Well, you said do something right in the time. And I think that's a key lesson for the guys in this class is if the bells go off and you do take control of it, time, place, and pace, that's a win. That's a win. And it's a sign of strength that you did it. Now, we'll make mistakes. This guy made one. I bet those coaches talked after the game with that guy and they're just fine. They're moving on. But it's a win when you kind of reach that level and go, in the moment, I made this micro decision and I communicated at this high level. That's where the leadership builds also. Have you seen that? I mean, you were in some multi-million-dollar presentations where it was high pressure, high stakes, just like this game on Friday night. Where have you seen that friction in communication when things break down?
Well, first of all, I mean, going back to when I got out of college, like I literally hated presenting. I couldn't stand getting in front of people. It was just something that I wasn't very good at. And I mean, even to the point, I remember showing up to a presentation that might have 50 people in it and just hoping that an earthquake would hit and the whole building would fall down and I wouldn't have to give that presentation. But at the end of the day, it's like you're getting paid to do something and you've got to go do it. In fact, I've got a really cool story. When I came out of college, got a product management job, which is where you define software products and work with the development to take it to market. So it's a pretty important role because when people want to know about it, in this case, customers, they're going to ask you to come present on behalf of the sales force so they can see what the product does and all that. So my first presentation out of college was at Oracle, which is a big, large software company and more back-end stuff. But I'd been on the job for 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. And this is a guy that had stage fright. Like I hated presenting, like I mentioned before. But my boss said, I know you've only been here for a few weeks. Like, I need you to get on stage. There's about 20 to 30 people in this session. I need you to go in there, be confident about what you're talking about. I understand that you know more than anybody else that's in that room because you're on stage, and take that confidence and run with it and go present. So I said, all right, let's do it. Got up there, prepared for like a week, went up there and did it. And during the middle of the presentation, it was about 45 minutes. And I look around in the audience, and I'm not joking, probably like 15 of the, about half the people were asleep. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm not that boring. Like, it can't be that bad. Anyway, got done with the presentation. I walk off, and about an hour later, my manager, my boss, comes up to me and said, "Hey, how did the presentation go?" And I said, "Well, I think I did all right, especially for not knowing the material all that well." And I said, "But the only thing is that about half the group was asleep in the audience." And he goes, "That's all right. They're all Japanese. They don't speak English anyway." So it's like, that was my first presentation I've ever done. But what stuck with me is that the preparation really matters. And when you have to stand up in front of a group and talk about something, you better know your stuff. And so preparation really comes into play. And that's no different than preparing to get on the mound, or preparing to get in the box, or working on your pre-pitch stuff. Like, it's all stuff that is really, you have to do to build confidence. It is that core of it. And, you know, when he told me, get up on stage and act like you are the most knowledgeable person in the room, I took that to heart, and I've never forgotten that stuff.
And you prepare like an animal now. Talk about preparation as we move to that second tough meeting, because that was in competition, the video we saw, but the second one is the toughest meeting for a college baseball player to take on. That is, I want a bigger role. I want more playing time. What's the parallel to business with baseball in there? And how do you prepare for a meeting like that?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to take it from a business standpoint. We can get into the baseball stuff later, but this is all stuff that, I mean, even about baseball, everything we're going to talk about is complete parallels. They play off each other completely in what we do in competitive environments. I would say the first thing is that you got to get really good at your craft. And to be able to do that is use the two terms that Coach Moore, you've talked about, and build on, work on. And when I think of that concept of build on, which is working on the things and getting better at the things that I'm good at, and then work on is digging in and understanding my weaknesses and attacking those weaknesses and creating a plan to get better at those. It all starts with self-awareness. And there's a lot of examples to where I always grew up as the kid, and my parents would tell me, work your tail off and good things will happen. And I agree with that. And there is a certain level where that has to happen. But also I need to be self-aware to understand what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and be able to attack those things I'm not good at and build on the things that I am good at. And an example would be my first few years of my career, I just kept getting passed up for promotions, either whether it was a new role moving up in the company, or it was higher salary. And I started realizing that I just don't have a strong relationship with the people that are managing me. And so I started building those relationships. And really what I was trying to do is understand, what do I have to do to get that raise, to get that promotion? Because I'm looking around the room at all the different cubicles, and people are moving past me, but yet I'm working harder than they are. And what I learned is that A, you got to work your tail off. B is you have to build relationships with those people, and not be afraid to ask them what you have to do to get that raise, to get that promotion, to get that playing time. But I also understood, to have that conversation, I better full well know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And sometimes it takes outside counsel, meaning work with the manager to understand, where are my weaknesses if I really don't know. But I have to first reflect on myself and understand, what am I good at? What can I bring to this ball club? How am I going to help this team win this inning? And if I can begin to answer that question as to why I'm not playing, or why I'm not getting that promotion, then I can go attack those things. And the other thing you can do too in these conversations is you almost you work with your manager or your coach to create a plan. Like, I want more playing time. I want a raise. I want more money. I create a plan. What am I missing? Okay, cool. So now that we agreed upon what I'm missing, now here are the two or three things that I'm going to go do that we agreed upon, that I can use to prove that I'm working on it. And then I have to actually show the quality of the work, or the performance on the field is getting better. So then we can really relate back to that. But if we haven't had that single conversation yet and built that understanding, there is no promotion. There is no raise. There is no playing time. And I'm just letting things happen to me versus making things happen for myself.
That relates to all those things that Saban's talking about, all the body language, all the things you do day to day. matter in that meeting you have, that tough meeting that does parallel with going in and asking for a raise. That's what a baseball player is doing when he's saying, I'd like a raise from the 11th man to the 8th man. I want to be promoted. And I remember some guys coming in and they were so prepared. They brought a notebook because they genuinely wanted to know what feedback they would be given, but they also had that self-awareness. And after the conversation, the communication skills were there. All these things are there, and they leave the room and you think, this guy's going to do really well. He's going to be rich. He's going to be very successful, whatever it is, because that is the toughest conversation when you're 19. It'll be tough. It'll be tough again at 27 and 32. And, when you had yours, but that preparation leading up to that meeting, it's everything. Now, how do you,
Well, real
How do
quick, more on that preparation, coach, is like I even remember going to lunch with my coworkers that had got the promotion, that did get the raises. And I would ask them, like, what do you think I need to do? And I needed to create that relationship so that I can get feedback from my peers. And then I can have more information. It's not just me with blinders on thinking I'm getting screwed. Like, I needed to understand and have strong relationships with my peers. And even we did this in college too. Like, why am I not getting more at bats? Well, I would ask my buddies who were catchers in the same trench as you. I would talk to you. Like, why do you think I'm not getting more bats? Why am I not playing more? And it was your job as a friend, as a peer, and as a coworker to be honest with me and tell me. That's what good friends do. That's what relationships create. It's that trust. And so you start to look at all these pieces that I can start to formulate self-awareness, that it's not just all on my shoulders. Like, go to outside counsel for help, like help people build your understanding and your awareness. Like, again, you can't even begin to have this conversation about promotions and getting more money and more playing time unless you really understand where
takes a
you're
ton
at.
of work. Yeah, it takes a ton of work. What about the confidence part of that? Because that's the biggest hurdle. You're probably struggling a bit before you go in here. If you were crushing balls all over the field, driving gaps, then you probably don't need to ask, what do I need to do to get better? But how do you coach a guy, either a professional or a college guy, high school guy, to go in and have that tough conversation, to have the confidence to do it?
It starts off with trust, right? Like, you got to believe that manager or that coach has got your best interest in mind. And, the corporate world is a lot more cutthroat than I would say that baseball is. It's just reality. If you don't perform, you're done. It just happens that way. And I do believe that 99.9%, 99.99% of all coaches out there are in this for one reason. And that's the relationships. Like, you can attest to this. I can too. Like, the best thing that's happened for me as a coach, and even as a manager for a number of years in the corporate world, is that I love when people reach out to me that I coached or that I managed before. Like, that's the best part of it. It's the relationships. Sorry, I lost my train of thought on the question there.
The confidence to get it done, to go in and have it.
Oh, yeah. It's just, again, having those conversations with your peers, even with mentors. Like, for me, when I was in the corporate world, like, it gets a little bit different when you leave the corporate world or when you leave the baseball world, where you have a coach and other assistant coaches that you can go to anytime for mentorship. When you get in the corporate world, in the real world, you have to seek those mentors. Like, they're not assigned to it like a coach. And so I always try to find people that were in a certain position that I was in, and I would get counsel for them and ask them, like, how did you get here? In fact, what was that movie with Will Smith, where he became a trader? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I can picture it.
Where he goes up, he's on the sidewalk and he's homeless, and he goes up to this guy that pulls up in a Ferrari and he's like, I have two questions for you. What job did you have to get that Ferrari? And can you teach me how to do it? Right.
Yeah.
And so you seek people out like that you respect, that you can see. And sometimes it's just reaching out. And in most cases, like, older people really want to help the younger generation, younger guys out. And so you just have to ask. But so get that direction from those people. Start to look at, like, what the skills are of those people that got promoted, that got more money, or that are getting play time. And it's not about comparing yourself, because we don't want to do that, but we want to understand, maybe this can help me understand my gaps.
Yeah.
And that's, once I have all that, then I think that the conversation isn't about playing time. The conversation isn't about more money and raises. It's about, here's where I want to get in life. Like for me, when I would go into these interviews or conversations with my management, and my staff, it's my goal is to be a chief marketing officer someday. That's my goal. Like, what do I need? Like, can you help me try to get there? For a baseball player, maybe it's, you know, my goal is to get college paid for. Like, what do I need to do right now to get more playing time to ensure that I'm getting off to moving from high school to junior college or junior college to Division II, Division I, whatever, NAIA, whatever it is to get my college paid for. But set the goal up front. Like, here's what I want to do.
Mhm.
Then you can work your way backwards from there to focus on the things you need to do to get better, to get more time on the field.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's not always when you're the 11th guy trying to move up to 7. Sometimes you're the guy and you just want to get clarity on, hey, what do I need to do to get better? And you go in and have that conversation and you get as specific as you can. Coaches love it. They absolutely love a guy that wants to get those details, because it makes the coach better too. And guys would come and ask me the question, and what I'd do is kick myself for not being clear or more proactive to get them those 2 or 3 nuggets that they were looking for. So there's a lot of levels to why a coach appreciates that question. What do I need to do? Not just what do I need to do to get better or get in the lineup. What do I really need to do to accomplish this goal that I have? It's powerful. And sometimes not a coach, it's, you know, a parent or a mentor somewhere, but it's the same process.
And coach, I remember the first conversation I had with my manager around this subject for getting a raise and promotion. And I didn't go in there with that mindset. Like, the mindset is, yeah, I want a raise and promotion. I want more money and I want a title, a bigger title. What I wasn't quite prepared for was the feedback that I got. And, you know, because I thought that I was confident that I had all these pieces in place. I didn't do enough to build full awareness when I walked into it. And so some of the feedback was, you know, you spend too much time on the details. Like, you don't move fast enough. Like, you care, quality is a good thing, but there's this law of diminishing returns. Like, you just don't do stuff fast enough. And I wasn't ready to hear that. And I kind of relate it back to the coaching stuff too. Like, even when I was playing, I just wasn't ready for the feedback. And so my comment is that if you're going to go and talk to a coach, like, you're going there to get direction, and you're not going there to get beat up, but you're going there to get direction. And sometimes we have a lot of emotion built into this thing. And we hear things a little bit differently than what was intended to be delivered. Right. And so if we go in there with less emotion, remove the emotional elements and listen and take the feedback, then we can start building a plan to work on it. And so, like, when I had that first meeting trying to get that promotion and raise, like, it really, when I took a step back and I left the office, in fact, I had to go back again and just say, I want to clarify a few things, right? I'm sorry to bug you, but I just want to make sure I understand I'm doing the right stuff. And so that's when I said, okay, we talked about this. I'm going to go build and put effort on this and then produce in those areas that this individual said I have weaknesses on. And so then I continued to just tie things off with them. And next thing I knew is I started motoring, and it just really changed my career. And man, I wish I would have known that in college, to be honest with you. Probably would have been a different player. And not that I'd still be playing, I'm too damn short, but I'd still, you know, maybe could have had a longer career in baseball if I would have thought that way.
Well, whether it's a teacher, a coach, anybody, it lets them know you care. And you've talked about this in the past, where you would go in every semester. This is just good best practice for all the guys, whether you're in middle school, high school, college, and you'd talk to every professor about 3/4 of the way through the semester, and you'd say, what can I do to get better? Will you explain what you did and why you did that?
I always made sure that this is just a standard practice. Don't know where I got it from, but it does take confidence to get out of your shell and go talk to teachers. For me, I always try to make it known what my goals were up front, and especially being a student athlete, right? And USF was a tough one when we were there. I had teachers that did not like athletes. And so my goal was to make them understand that I was different. Like, I cared about school. Although I wasn't an amazing student, I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't great. I made sure that they understood that I knew that education was important to me, that baseball was important too, but I knew baseball wasn't going to last forever. And I need this thing called education to move on past that and to be a better person. So I always set that up front.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss, like, especially in the spring, I'm going to miss a lot of class. We're going to be flying to Hawaii. We're going to be going to the East Coast for a road trip. Like, I'm going to be gone, but just know I really care. And at that point, then I can go back on a regular basis and make sure that I say hi to the professor. Maybe, this day and age is a little bit harder where a lot of it stuff is online, but set up appointments with your teachers, send emails, send text if you can reach them, just check in with them. And then that leaves the door open so that when I get 3/4 of the way through it, maybe I have a C and maybe I'm like a middle C and I need a B or I want a B. I go talk to them and say, I've got a C right now. How do I get to a B+? They might say, that's crazy. Well, I know it's crazy, but I need to try to get there because I'm trying to get those goals that I have. And it usually worked out really well because, again, just like you do with a coach, they're going to give you direction on what you need to do to get better. And I mean, there's some crazy, I'm not kidding you. Like I would go talk to professors at USF and even in junior college after the grade had been given, even like, let's say in the spring, and I'd come back in the fall and I'd go talk to that professor. I had one teacher, it was in accounting, I got a D. He bumped my grade from a D to an A-. And it was basically the conversations. He asked me, didn't you get an A in my class? And I said, no, you gave me a D. And he said, well, come back and see me tomorrow. And it's not always this easy, but the point is build relationships and talk to people because they're in teaching for a reason, just like coaches are in this for a reason, is that they want to build relationships and they want to help.
Yeah. But there's such a beautiful process underneath that too, not just your hustle to get the better grades, but you have to wipe away the fear to go and have those adult conversations. It's professional communication, public professional communication. You get a rep of that every time you go speak to a professor before or after class. And that is a special thing by itself. So you do that 8, 10, 12 times, and they're real conversations. In your heart, you got to have real inquisitive conversations, even have some fun. And that creates a confidence for other things. I've watched it happen. Guys that were afraid to raise their hand in class, they got a goal of, hey, you're going to raise your hand once a day. You're going to be wrong half the time, but you're going to contribute something to the class. Okay, I'll do it. Next thing you know, they're at the front of the class after class and they're having these great conversations and they're just holding themselves differently. For the middle school guys, do it now. Enjoy those conversations. For the high school guys, have fun with those conversations. The college guys, schedule them and go have them and make them ultra productive, because just that process, I mean, I could give you 8 stories about guys getting jobs because they built a relationship with a professor over a year, 2 or 3. That's not the point. The point is the confidence grows to have this high level, professional, productive conversation or communication with these adults. You're an adult at that point too, but they want to have them with you. And you're going to feel that communication skill build over time, weeks, semesters. And by the end of your time as a senior in college, you're ready to go into one of those presentations that you went in not fully ready, but you made yourself ready. And that's what we're building to.
And Coach, to me, it's all about relationships. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you take a step back, and then maybe this is an exercise that everybody can do on the call right now, is when we take a step back and I think about all the things that are important to me, right? That are close to my vest, that are close to my chest. Like who are those people that influence those things? Like education is important, right? My grades are important. Isn't it crazy that I wouldn't talk to a teacher or a professor that controls my destiny around a grade? Yeah, I own the outcome of that grade. But if I had a way to influence it and build a relationship, I'm not saying go and kiss booty. I'm just saying go build a relationship and see what happens, right? Instead of just saying, I'm not even going to talk to this person, just write it and hopefully just my grades will do it. I'm not putting myself in a position to win.
Yeah.
Other things. So if I have a job, right, and I look at the person who's making decisions, around how much money I'm getting paid, what my hours are at work. Maybe I'm in junior college or college and I have a late night stocking job, right? Where I'm stocking shelves and doing that stuff. But getting to know those managers that own those schedules, right? Just talking to them. Like if I start to look at those things and understand the people that impact and influence my life in that way, go build relationships with them. And the other thing that's going to do is that long term, in fact, when I look at my tech career, I look at baseball and what I did in college. I look at my wife, like all of it, all those things I have in life are built on relationships. They all started with relationships. And I'll take you through them. Like I went to U of A out of high school, went to Sac City. Jerry Weinstein was my coach. Jerry Weinstein put me in contact and made the University of San Francisco deal happen. Without Jerry Weinstein, that deal never happened. I never went to University of San Francisco. So Weinstein made that happen. When I met my wife, I was living in San Diego, went to a best friend's barbecue, met her. And because they had someone that my buddies were and friends that were vouching for me, I already had an in on it because I was consistent and I built trust with my friends, and that trust gets parlayed on to that person as well. The corporate world, there is not a single job in my life that I haven't gotten because of a relationship. Not one. It's all relationships. And, you know, we were talking to some of our guys in the dugout the other day. We were talking about that concept. Like if I can start to look at all these people that influence my life and start building meaningful relationships with them, then we can help each other. And most people want to help, but if I don't take the time and I just kind of cruise around in my own world, guess what? You're going to be in your own world.
Yeah, it's something scientifically backed. Clinical psychologist talks about that. He says, you know, the more we're thinking about ourselves and the pimple on our face, I think that was Wilnick, but the more we think about ourselves, the more isolated we get. But when you just kind of break that fear and say, you know what, I'm going to enjoy the people, engage the people, the happiness, I mean, it just spirals upward. And I know that with you, you love the intricacies of what people are doing, and it's genuine from you.
But we started, thank you for that. I mean, we started this conversation with communication. And the reality is like honesty, direct feedback, compassion, energy around relationships. They're all communication elements. But at the end of the day, it's building relationships, right? And that's in being open to them and being vulnerable in certain situations. Like you just got to ride with it. Yeah. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough of how powerful learning to communicate is. The other thing I'll say just on the corporate side, when I look at the people that shot to the top of every company I was at, they were the people that could get on stage and speak 100%, whether it's in a meeting in front of 10 people or it's on stage in front of 20,000 people. Those were the people that moved to the top.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do, but the point is you have to first start trying it. And there's this, one of our players at the college, I'm not going to say his name, but I love these kids and he's one of them. We do this thing called I Expect. So if you ever come out to one of our games, you'll see us down the line and we'll go around and each player will say something to another player. I expect you to do this today to help our team win this inning. And there's one individual that had a really hard time doing it to the point where he just kind of took a step back and said, hey, Coach French, can you please call me first so I can prepare my I Expect? And I said, yeah, let's do that. So fast forward 3 weeks and the kid is one of the best speakers out there. But it takes this time, like somebody to trust you and have confidence and just start doing it. Like you got to do it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Raise the hand, go to the front of the class, have those tough conversations. It's so powerful. I hear people say all the time, well, and I've said it too, you know, when you have that vision, you go, hey, I want to be in Pro Bowl. I want to be the face of an organization because I'm going to make millions doing this. Yeah, that is a good goal to throw out there, but it really is the relationships. And I always think to Jeter, there's a great video of him talking about how he didn't do it for the cameras. So his leadership almost avoided the cameras. He knew when they were around. So he was always just building relationships in that locker room. And then after 20 years in Major League Baseball, he is the face and he is the Hall of Famer and he's all these things, but all he was doing was the process right and communicating and building relationships. It's all he just focused on that. And it was almost for the sake of it. It wasn't so that somebody could call him a leader or he could be the face. It was building for the sake of building. And that's a powerful thing, especially when you're young, to enjoy, and then you'll see the benefits, even though you won't care when they come.
I love that point about Jeter, because like you said, he didn't like being on camera, and most of his leadership was by example, right? And that's one thing that I relate back to the corporate world too, and the tech world, is that quality really matters. And, you know, being a quiet leader or a silent leader is based on quality of work, right? Like how you portray yourself, how you carry yourself. And one of the things that I think that I did pretty well throughout my career is that I really focused on attention to detail. Like I cared about what I delivered. And what I've found is that when quality matters, is that you have this kind of innate feeling in your chest when something's good, right? And as I focus on quality reps and building quality content, like I was in product management, product marketing, but if I was to build something and deliver it to my CEO or to customers, I wanted it to be something that I was proud of. And as you go through that process, it is preparation, right? Like I'm taking the time to really understand the subject and look at it from all the different angles. What are these people going to think about that content that they're reading, or that they're consuming, and making sure that it is a high level of quality. And the more consistent I am around delivering quality, whether it's effort or quality content or quality work, that builds the foundation and the trust of who I am and what my character is. And it builds an understanding of what I bring to the table. And so, you know, going back when I showed up at ServiceNow, when I was employee 30 at that company that really grew a lot, it was based on relationships, but those relationships were based on the fact that I had worked my tail off throughout my career, and I was known for being a hard worker and getting stuff done and grinding, right? And so when you deliver high quality content, high quality effort, you're a no-brainer to people. And that's just being consistent.
That speaks to your work. Your work is another way to communicate.
Absolutely.
On that note, I'm gonna drive some irony into the end of class because we got to 80% of what we wanted to, but I'm not gonna let you leave without ending this with where it all begins. This idea of self-talk. You run your team through a really unique exercise, in my opinion. And it's ironic because we're talking about building relationships, but will you go into that baseball realm and show how this visualization activation works so that when a young guy is in his room by himself and he's got some time, he's using self-talk in the room so that when he gets to class tomorrow, it'll be relationship talk and building those. Could you run us through that?
Yeah. And I think a lot of this stuff that we're going to go through is it's building confidence. It's muscle memory. A lot of people think of muscle memory being something I do on a regular basis, like physical, like hitting off a tee. Yeah, that's muscle memory, but I can also build muscle memory just by being quiet and being in a single place and being in the moment. And we've received a lot of good feedback since we've been doing this. There are a lot of other teams that are using this similar approach too, but I'm going to share with you guys, just so you know which room we're in, is that what you can do to prepare for your moment. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a presentation on stage in front of 20,000 people, or it's an at bat or a pitch, like it's all about moments and executing in that moment at the highest level and preparing yourself to do that. And so what I'm going to take you through is what we call visualization and activation. And the concept is that if you take a step back, I want you all to close your eyes. Get comfortable, close your eyes. All right. I want you to think about if you're an offense, or if you're a position player, I want you to think about your latest at bat. If you're a pitcher, I want you to think about a memorable pitch sequence that you had against a specific batter. But close your eyes and do it. Walk through it in your head. All right, let's hold off on that. You can open your eyes. What I'm doing this too is that why we're doing this is to show you that our thoughts and our memories are not done in words. It's not done in book format. It's done in images and videos. My guess is that all of you saw a video and an image of what I asked you to look at, whether it was that at bat or that pitching sequence. You had to have seen an image or a video. And so that's the way our mind works. And I got this from a gentleman named Robert Smith, who's here in Sacramento area. He works with a lot of professional golfers and a number of D1 football teams. And the concept is that we want to create our mind and organize our thoughts into something like Netflix, right? Where I have a series of movies that I can capture, that I create, or that have already been registered in my subconscious mind, because we're recalling movies. And if I can get good at starting to organize those movies, then I can play them when I need them. I can create new ones. I can also remove movies that are negative. And I've done this before when I was in college and even presenting on stage. Like before I'd go out, I would visualize and I would see things that weren't positive. And I'd hit pause, I'd stop, I'd rewind and say, replay a new one, erase that one, create a new one. So we have to replace these negative movies and images in our head. And so what I want you to think about is in your mind as we go through this, is that your mind is really organize your movies and your memories like a Netflix account or a YouTube account, whatever it is, Hulu. They all virtually, they look the same. And by the way, from a tech perspective, the reason why they look the same is because that's the way your mind operates. These people aren't dumb, right? Like they're evaluating things that people already know and that are comfortable to them. So think of your mind as Netflix. The other thing, the rules of engagement as we go through the visualization exercise is that one, it has to be through the eyes of you. You are not watching yourself. This is not a movie where you're watching yourself on the screen. You are the active participant. You are the star of the show. You're seeing out of your eyes. If you get into visualization and you watch yourself like you're on a TV screen, then you got to work on your confidence because you care too much about what others think about you. So we have to be in our role. We have to be looking out of our eyes, just like we have an Oculus on. That's the world it looks like. The other thing you want to notice too, as we go through this exercise, is that a lot of times we create borders around the movies that we play. And those borders can be just like a picture frame. They can also be fuzzy that lead into like a center area where there's just the movie playing in the middle. Our job is to get rid of those borders and be like in an Oculus right turn, and I can see, and I am the active participant in this movie. So those are the rules of engagement. The next thing to talk about before we get into it is that it's something we call box breathing. And the idea is to slow the system down because your breath controls your system. It can help you get in the moment. So I'm going to walk you through that. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes. I'm going to take you through box breathing. We're going to set our mantra, which defines who we are. And then I'm going to take you through a couple scenarios, and then we're going to take a minute to collect our own thoughts and visualize more. And then we'll open our eyes. All right. So get in a comfortable place, lean back if you can, close your eyes. All right. I want you to really pay attention with your eyes closed to the surroundings around you. Feel the couch or the chair that you're sitting on. Feel what your head is leaning up against. Feel your feet on the ground or wherever they are. Now let's go through box breathing. We're going to breathe in through our nose to a count of 5. In through our nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Keep working around that box. I really want you to see that box. As you count, see the line on that box as you go across the top, down the side, down the bottom. Again, it should be a 5 count of each. This is how you get into the moment. We're going to do that 3 times. Now let's start focusing on what we call our mantra. Stay in that breathing pattern. I want you to think about a mantra. And if you're not aware or really know what a mantra is, this is that single phrase that defines who you're going to be on the field today, who defines who you're going to be to help your team win that inning. That single phrase. You're going to use it to stay locked in between pitches. You're going to use it to reset after adversity. This is that thing that's going to define who you're going to be throughout this entire day and through this moment. Now see yourself, we're going to walk through it at baseball one before a game. So keep in mind your mantra. See yourself in the dugout with your teammates. Pay special attention how you're communicating with them. See yourself on defense. Being that guy that's going to help the team win that inning. See yourself in the box, being that guy that's going to help this team win this inning. If you're a pitcher, see yourself on the mound, being that guy that you just defined. So pitchers, you're going to have to bear with me. You're going to go through an offensive one right now. Position players and pitchers, you're going to go ahead and hit. We're going to take this on. We're just going to show you how to do this. You're in the dugout. You have all your stuff. You're with your teammates. Look around, see your teammates. Your buddies at the plate, you exit the dugout. You're in the on deck circle getting ready to hit. We're going to go through our full on deck routine. And if you don't have a routine yet, lock something in now. What you're going to do while your buddy is at the plate, getting prepared to execute. Your buddy's at the plate. Right-hander's on the mound, lifts his leg, delivers the pitch. Your buddy hits a one-hopper off the wall. He gets out of the box hard, he rounds first, gets to second base, he's cranking it. You're in the on-deck circle. Your teammates are going crazy, but you're not. You leave the on-deck circle. You feel the softness of the grass. You get up to the plate area. You're outside the box. We're hunting fastballs in this scenario. In this scenario, I'm going to walk you through it. We're hunting fastballs. Pitcher's on the rubber, delivers the pitch. You hit the ball, you smash it, one hopper off the wall, you get out of the box hard, you round first, you get to second base, you're cranking it. Now hit pause in that movie, and I want you to physically see yourself, rewind that movie back to the point to where before you get in the box. Now I want you to really focus in and hone in on this ball you're going to hit on this fastball again. Your goal is to hit the line drive over second base or shortstop and one hopper off the wall. I want you to bring it to life. Feel the feeling when it happens. Pitches in the rubber, delivers the pitch. You stay in your legs. You hit a smash one hopper off the wall. You get to the box hard. You round first. You get to second base. You're cranking it. Now let's do it on our own. Hit pause in that movie. Wind it back to the point before you get in the box. Now I'm going to ask you to say your mantra. Have your short mantra. Get in the box and get it done. And see it all the way to the point where you get to second base and you're pumped up. Say your mantra and go. All right, hit pause in that movie. Now there's different things you can do there. You can do it based on hunting fastballs, 0-2 counts, 3-1 counts, hunting curveballs. But the point is you get that mental repetition, that muscle memory by closing your eyes to do it. Okay, now we're going to go on defense. So now you're in the dugout, you're getting your stuff on, you got your glove on, you're heading out of the dugout, you feel the softness of the grass, you get to your spot. When you're in your spot, I want you to take a look around. Look to your left. What do you see? Look to your right. What do you see? Look behind you. What do you see? Now look in front of you. Really soak it in. And we're going to do a routine play, and then we're going to do what we call a stretch play. But the routine play we'll start with. I'm going to walk you through it. As we go through this, I want you to pay special attention to the bat angle when you're on defense and the pitch location. You're going to attack the baseball. Pitcher's on the rubber, delivers the pitch. The ball's hit right at you. You're watching the bat angle and the ball flight. You attack the baseball. You're light, you're airy, your arm is lightning, you're throwing through your target. All right, hit pause that movie, wind it back to the point before the pitcher gets in the rubber. Go through the routine play again. Say your mantra and go. All right, hit pause in that movie, wind it back to the point before the pitcher gets in the rubber. We're going to do what we call a stretch play. This is that play that you used to do when you're a little kid in the backyard, where you're making a diving play, you're going to make an amazing play. You haven't yet made this play, but you have the confidence to make it because you've made other plays similar to it. But you're going to make this play in your mind right now. We're going to get it done and bring it to life. So pitcher's on the rubber, delivers the pitch, ball's hit right at you. You extend yourself, you make that play, you pop up, your arm is lightning, you throw it through your target. Hit pause in that movie, wind it back to the point before the pitcher gets in the rubber. Again, stretch play. Say your mantra and go. All right, hit pause in that movie. Now you've got we're going to take 30 seconds just to collect your thoughts. You're going to run through your defensive approach. We're working on a routine play, a stretch play. We're going to work on our offensive approach and hunting fastballs, and take 30 seconds to get your mind right. When you're done, after 30 seconds, I'll have you wake up here. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead and open your eyes. So that's just a taste of what can happen when you're building muscle memory. And just like any other muscle, the brain is a muscle. I've got to work on it. This is not something I can just expect it to happen. Like, my goal is to try to create new movies, leveraging our confidence from things that have already happened to replace negative movies and movies that don't work for us. But the more I can do that and use the same videos over and over, the same movies, the more I'm going to build that skill set that when I'm on the mound and things go south, I can quickly replay it. Or if I'm getting on the mound right away for the first time, the first pitch, and I need first pitch strike, I'm going to see that thing briefly. I'm going to get in the mound and I'm going to shove because that's what I've done. I know how to do it. I've got confidence to do it. I'm going to do the same when I get in the box. I've already been, this movie's already played. I know what's going to happen. Have confidence when you do it. But these are things you can do 10 minutes a night. Maybe if you want to do it in the morning. For us at our college, we do it before, about 10 minutes before game time. These are all things you can do, but the reality is you have to practice it to get good at it. And this little thing we just talked about can be used for anything in life. For me, I used to use this concept when I go up on stage, because speaking in front of 10,000 people is hard to do. When you have lights on you, you have to be confident and you got to go do it. Coach Moore, you awake? We'll wake you up here more. All right, there you go.
That was awesome. We're going to send a recording of this. I encourage you to go back, and I'll timestamp it when I send it in prep notes, but listen again and practice again. I've heard from Coach French and some other people, it's been powerful for those players to do this over and over, not just for confidence, but production. So, Coach, thank you for taking us through that. I wish we got more into your career, but we got into a lot, and this has been fun.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Like I said, it's fun to be on this side of the aisle and on the screen.
They're juggling both over there. Next week, we're going to get into reflection, how to reflect on a performance and turn that into a micro action plan. We're going to do it in a way that everybody can nail their mini plan, and it'll help you get better from Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday. We'll do it in school. We'll do it out of school. I think it's a powerful tool. As we leave, the night's been about communication, and we're going to leave you with two pros who have a lot of fun with communication. And I hope you do too this week when you raise your hand, when you go have those conversations with teachers, coaches, parents. Enjoy it. Enjoy communicating. This is the great Peyton Manning and the great Ron Burgundy on an interview that appeared on ESPN a couple of years ago. Communication's fun. Enjoy this.
Hello, America, Mexico, and remote parts of Canada. This is Ron Burgundy reporting for ESPN, or ESPN, as it's known in the biz. My guest today is none other than future Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning. Peyton, can you hear me?
I sure can, Ron, and it's an honor to be talking to you.
Peyton, can you hear me?
Yes, Ron, I can, very clearly. Can you hear me, Ron?
Yes, loud and clear. Can you hear me?
What do you think?
I think yes, you can hear me. I just want to make sure it's you, Peyton. I remember once before the 1978 Holiday Bowl, I thought I was interviewing the great Phil McConkey, and instead I was talking to the backup kicker. I felt like a fool. And the boys at the station had quite a laugh at my expense, so I'm just making sure.
I actually remember that game, Ron. I think Navy squeaked one out at the old Murph. I was 2 years old.
Hell of a game, hell of a battle. Peyton, here's something I've got to ask you right out of the gate. You are one of the great quarterbacks playing the game today. You've had a lot of success, and yet you've done it all without a mustache. You're running around out there, and I'm going to be honest with you, you look like a succulent baby lamb, okay? And let's face it, all the great NFL quarterbacks have had mustaches. Joe Namath, Jeff Hostetler, Jeff George, Randall Cunningham, Mark Malone, Colt McCoy, Burt Reynolds, the guy from Barney Miller, Mike Farrell from MASH. The list goes on and on.
Barney Miller. Well, first off, Ron, some of those guys weren't quarterbacks as far as I know. And I guess to tell you the truth, I never had much of a desire to grow any facial hair. I think I've managed to play quarterback okay without a mustache. Eli tried to grow one a while back without much success, I have to say.
Oh, I saw that. It did not look good.
Easy, Ron. Yeah, that's my brother. I do agree, though, it wasn't very well groomed.
Sorry. You've played against some tremendous defensive players over the years, and I have to ask you, what's it like getting sacked by Merlin Olsen?
Merlin Olsen.
Yes.
Ron, I'm pretty sure I was 4 years old when Merlin Olsen retired.
Maybe, maybe not.